Hello everybody, welcome back to Go Big Bore or Go Home, where recoil is required. Why? Because we're the house of the rising gun. I'm your host Sean, and this week we're starting a new series called Caliber Close-Ups. The idea is we take one caliber and look at it up close and personal to tell you a little bit about where it came from, what it can do, and maybe why you'd be interested in having something chambered in it. So, I wanted to start with the caliber that really launched this channel. Up until this caliber, all I really personally had experience with was the 44 Magnum, and I'd always been fascinated by these bigger bores. And this is the one that really got my interest peaked, and that is the 454 Casull. So sit back, relax, and learn all about Dick Casull's cartridge that really launched a whole new genre of handgun hunting. To talk about the 454 Casull requires us to first look at its parent cartridge, the 45 Colt. Back in 1873, when the 45 Colt was first introduced in the Colt M1873, now more commonly known as the Colt Single Action Army, it was in no way viewed as lacking in power. But that's because the metallic cartridge concept was still getting off the ground, and black powder was pretty much the only propellant available. Not that it was weak in any way, but through the eyes of the modern shooter, it definitely hadn't reached its full potential. And the truth is that this is in no way a new concept. Back in the 1930s through the 1950s, two men had similar notions. The first used 45-70 bullets, which were roughly 0.04 of an inch too wide and a copious amount of smokeless powder. The result was a destroyed Colt Single Action Army and a letter to the American Rifleman magazine that resulted in him taking the suggestion to experiment with a 44 Special instead. The second realized that the pressures created by hot-loading the 45 Colt were too much for the old-fashioned Single Action Army frame and thus designed a 5-shot revolver that he then built as a one-off for himself. That man's name was Dick Casull. Dick Casull was adamant that the newer smokeless powders could take the 45 Colt from a good performer for self-defense against humans and turn it into a cartridge that could take any game on the North American continent. But his realization that the Colt Single Action Army was not suitable to the pressures that would be created was spot on. He had destroyed a gun or two himself, but his new custom single action was up to the task, and he started experimenting. In order to increase power, Dick Casull needed to drastically increase velocity. More powder means more pressure, and Dick was not afraid of that. He ramped the pressure up to a maximum of 65,000 pounds per square inch, which is usually only seen in rifle rounds. Keep in mind that most conventional cartridges for handguns are under 40,000 pounds per square inch, with very few ever exceeding that. Dick Casull experimented with triplex loads for his cartridge, meaning he would layer 3 different types of powder, one on top of the other, to get the bullets to the speed he wanted. At the time of the experiments that Dick Casull was performing, the powders we have today just weren't available. Today, with the right powder, this type of powder layering is unnecessary and honestly should not be done as it's quite dangerous. But Dick did achieve the goals he wanted, clocking 230 grain bullets at up to 2,000 feet per second. That is a major increase in power. By 1957, Dick Casull had dialed in most of the parameters for his new, improved version of the 45 Colt, and in 1959, Guns & Ammo magazine did an article on it. And the world first heard of the 454 Casull. The cartridge now had significantly increased power that could handle anything you would encounter in Canada or America. Bears, bison, and moose were now completely stoppable with a handgun. That was quite a feat for 1959. But the guns had to be custom made to handle the pressures, and the cartridges were being made out of 45 Colt brass. So for just over 2 decades, the cartridge remained a wildcat that rarely saw any use. But that anonymity didn't last. In the mid-1970s, Wayne Baker met Dick Casull and the two formed a business agreement. They were going to release Dick Casull's brainchild to the world and make it more readily available. And that was going to start with the cartridge they built the gun around. They decided to change some things to the brass to add strength and to ensure people did not try to shoot 454 Casull cartridges in a 45 Colt chambered firearm. They opted to use small rifle primers instead of large pistol primers. This allowed there to be a significant increase in the amount of brass that made up the case head, strengthening it substantially. Then, they lengthened the brass. The standard 45 Colt brass measures a maximum length of 1.285 inches or roughly 32.6 millimeters. The new 454 Casull casing would have a maximum of 1.383 inches or 35.13 millimeters. That may not sound like much, but it is obvious to the naked eye, and it will also keep the round from being chambered in a 45 Colt revolver. With that set, the revolver was next. The basic design was around the prototype concept that Dick Casull had made in 1957 and improved upon since. It was a traditional Colt Single Action Army function, meaning no transfer bar, and made of strong stainless steel that was thick in all the right places. And it was produced with extreme precision to ensure safety and quality. And in 1983, Wayne Baker opened Freedom Arms and released the new Model 83 chambered in 454 Casull. That brings us back to the cartridge and its performance. At the time, ammo was only available from Freedom Arms, but more often than not, people bought the brass from them and loaded their own ammunition since they also provided reloading data. Freedom Arms still does this type of thing with their proprietary 500 Wyoming Express round today, by the way. So what can this round do? Well, the bullets were now 240 grains, and they could reach a blistering 1,900 feet per second. Essentially, the bullet would have the same energy at 100 yards as a .44 Magnum has at the muzzle of the gun. And this cartridge could move heavier bullets at incredible velocities, too. The .454 Casull could move 300 grain bullets at 1,650 feet per second, and today you can load bullets weighing up to 360 grains with high velocities to make this cartridge capable of just about anything. 400 grains if you know where to look. The .454 Casull became popular for handgun hunters after truly large game. While the .44 Magnum, which was the powerhouse most employed for that purpose at the time, was capable of large game, the .454 Casull could help ease the anxiety of the hunter or wilderness wanderer just a little bit. The .454 Casull had no trouble with brown bears, moose, bison, and the large Kodiak bears of Alaska. Handgun hunters then started taking it off-continent and discovered that it had no trouble taking lions, leopards, buffalo, rhinoceros, or even elephant. That's right, the big five all fell to Dick Casull's cartridge. And even the mighty hippopotamus has had to bow to its power. It became clear right away that the .454 Casull could literally stop anything that walks on the earth today. The only downside most faced at the time was that the cartridge was only available in custom-made guns and in the Freedom Arms Model 83, which has always been just about as expensive as a custom gun. Although in fairness, you do get your money's worth with the Freedom Arms. But in the late 1990s, that started to change. Ruger was experimenting with a very hard, very strong form of stainless steel known as carpenter steel. The result was they released their 6-shot Super Red Hawk in .454 Casull in 1997. And within a year, Taurus released the 5-shot Raging Bull, also chambered in .454 Casull as well. Now you could purchase a .454 Casull in a double-action platform for under $1,000 at the time. That was huge for this cartridge. Now most average Joes could afford to buy one. And ammunition manufacturers like Hornady, Speer, Winchester, Buffalo Bore, and others started offering factory ammunition. Pricey, but let's face it, you can't shoot this round all day anyways. And that brings us to the here and now. While no longer the most powerful handgun cartridge you can buy, the .454 Casull is still in the realm of the most powerful. And it has become easier than ever to get one. Ruger has released their Super Red Hawk Alaskan in the chambering and also made a 5-shot Super Black Hawk Bisley in it. Magnum Research offers their BFR in it too. Ammo is much easier to find from many sources, but you can also reload for about half the cost and tailor your rounds to your desires. This round is also convenient in that it comes in conventional large-frame revolvers, unlike the two Smith & Wesson Magnum calibers that require either the X-frame or a long-frame BFR, so it remains quite packable. But nothing in life comes without a cost. The recoil of this cartridge is quite honestly brutal and severe. The high pressure that it uses creates a lot of fast-moving muzzle rise that can only be defined as a nasty snap towards the shooter, and the recoil impulse towards your palm is intense and jarring. The pressure of this round can be felt in your sinuses, making you cringe a bit afterwards. A larger gun with more weight would easily tame this cartridge, but it would defeat the purpose of being packable that Dick Casull originally had in mind. And some well-regarded gunsmiths I know hate this round and actively try to talk people into other cartridges instead. Personally, despite its intense kick, I like this round a lot and enjoy shooting it. It's very accurate, and the high velocities it produces give it a very flat trajectory that increases its range. It's really quite impressive as a cartridge. It's very effective at hunting pretty much anything, is gangbusters in silhouette, and is fun to shoot at stuff like watermelons, water jugs, and pumpkins, a personal favorite of mine. You should approach it with respect though, as the recoil can get away from you, and I would recommend a padded glove to keep it from getting the best of your palm. But the .454 Casull is an absolute success story, and the cartridge that really ushered in the era of Magnum Plus calibers and handguns. Without it, I doubt we'd have seen things like the cartridges of John Linebaugh or Smith & Wesson's X-Frame. And given it becoming more common, it's definitely a cartridge to consider if you're in the market for a powerful revolver. Well, there you have it, guys. All about the .454 Casull, making grizzly since 1983. What was your most interesting point in the video? Or was there something we left out you thought we should have included? Tell us in the comments below, and while you're there, tell us what caliber you'd like to see next. Maybe an old favorite like the .44 Magnum, maybe a massive powerhouse like the 500 Maximum, or maybe something esoteric like the 10mm Magnum. Whatever it is, put it in the comments and let us know. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more content. It really helps out the channel. And if you didn't like it, I thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate you giving our videos a chance. And as always, go big bore or go home.